There's the YouTube link. I just texted it to you. We've got about 10 seconds. And we are live. We are live. Hello, we are live on WPAT, which is 93 AM out of New York City into 30 million homes. Now, it's not just 30 million homes in New York, because as you know, New York only has about 9 million people, but it's all of northern New Jersey, pieces of eastern Pennsylvania, upstate New York, all of Connecticut, and a piece of Massachusetts. So it's a very large signal with 30 million homes, and we are also live on YouTube. So in order for you to see us on YouTube, you have to go to our Facebook page, which is Willie Saunders' Facebook page, and I just posted the link up there. Today, I just want to say we have a very exciting guest who has he travels in circles that I would like to travel in, but I don't. But I'm excited to have with us Raoul Mongilardi. And let me just tell you a little bit about him before we start, if you don't mind. So, Raoul, this is exciting for me to talk to you, but you are an award-nominated author, a filmmaker, a documentarian, which has nothing to do with being an octarian. It has nothing to do with your age. It means you make movies. But anyway, you've worked on the Geffen Playhouse, Paramount Television, Disney Imaging, and also some independent studios, Hollywood stars, and European royalty. That's interesting. I'll have to tell you my European royalty story one day. You're currently working on 3 projects. We're going to concentrate on one today, but let me talk about the first 2. The M.I.A., which is a drama about one of the most revealed naval histories in U.S. history. It happens to be your father and his heroic wife, and widow, who's your mother, with a script by Tim Hanks, and I believe also Jacques Gruber is also co-wrote it. You'll explain that to us. But the film is slated to go into production already. Your team is also developing a Hollywood legacy series called The Client List, based on the memoir of the legendary talent agent David Resnick and his client list, which was the client list that everybody wanted to have back then. But additionally, I want to talk, what we're going to concentrate today is to have the book series, the 4-book series, Next to the Gods, Next to the Gods. And Raoul just had Patrick Topolopoulos. Topolopoulos, it rhymes with megalopolis, but he's aboard to direct the scripted series Next to the Gods, Into the Sphere Worlds, which is it's a renowned series. We're going to get into it and talk to it and in detail. But Raoul serves on the advisory board of Better Youth, Inc., a Los Angeles-based charity that supports diverse youth, getting them into paid positions into the entertainment industry. Hey, I raised my hand, Raoul. I want to get a paid position there. And you work as a production coordinator for Disney Imaging, also for the feature film Love.com for Paramount Pictures, served as the director of operation for Peter Rogers' organization's International Film and Television Program Distribution. You also founded OMRPM Productions, which is a corporation currently producing the 3rd documentary, which is Valley of the Owl, about one of the oldest boarding schools in America. Well, that's going to be interesting. And his previous documentaries include The Changing Face of Autism, which I've seen that, by the way. It's very interesting about autism and people who are on the spectrum. He has been nominated for a Voice Award. I'm running out of breath here, Raoul. And the PBS broadcast Walt Disney Concert Hall. Please join me in welcoming Raoul Mongilardi. Hello, Raoul.
Hi, thank you for that wonderful intro, and I'm really happy to be here with you today on WPAT 93.
Yes. And, you know, I just want to say that we really appreciate you having you here.
Thank you.
You're one of the, I'm excited about some of the people that you would connect with. You and I connected. I enjoy talking to you. We enjoyed talking to each other. I think we're going to have fun today, but we have a purpose today.
Yeah.
And the purpose is I want to give a background to you. I gave a verbal background, but I want to show some photos also.
Sure.
And I want to talk through those photos. After we get through those, because I want to give some background to you, I'd like to talk about Next to the Gods, because it's a 4-book series.
Yes.
And there's some scientific things that you put in the book that never existed, that became true since you wrote the book, which is mind-blowing. So we're going to get into that.
Right.
So right now, let me just show you some stuff about Raoul, some of his background. I want to just show you here. He is with Billy Zane. He's famous for being in productions where the ship sinks, Dead Calm and Titanic.
So he's standing in front of his artwork. So Billy is an accomplished painter, and this was at an exhibit of his work.
Yes, and you know what? I love his work. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we're going to invite you and Billy to an opening we're having in Florida for a very good friend of mine I've known for 20 years, who has been exploding. We'll have to talk offline about that.
Sure.
His name is Duda Penteado, exploding in the art world. So, and I understand Billy's in Florida, right?
I'm not sure where he is right now, but
okay,
we can certainly find out.
We can find out. Well, and then here you are with Hillary Clinton.
That's Sharon Stone and Hillary Clinton.
Oh, that's Sharon Stone. Hey, by the way, don't get her mad. Don't ever get her mad. Just make sure you send her flowers and keep her happy, okay? So that's great. This was, when was this, recently?
No, this was in 2009 at the Kennedy Center Honors, and we were at the State Department dinner in this photograph. We had been to the White House earlier, and we were at a reception, and this was the State Department dinner. Yeah, those are the State Department building in Washington is really a fascinating building. Somebody should do a special about it at some point, because when you look at it outside, it's a great big federal building. It looks like the FBI building, you know, sort of stone, imposing, non-ornamented 1930s architecture. Well, when you go inside, there are offices and everything. And then in the middle of the State Department are these incredible rooms. They're big, wonderful state reception rooms with chandeliers and wood paneling and huge, huge spaces, and some very interesting documents as well. And it's something that the public doesn't generally see at all. As you see in the background, you can see the chandeliers hanging. We were just about to go into the State Department dinner.
Wow, that's fantastic. I wish, did you get pictures of yourself at the White House?
Yes, I did.
I'd love to see those. I'd love to see those. Here is you again with Sharon Stone.
This is at the Kennedy Center itself. This is a Getty image of us taken at the step and repeat at the carpet. And you can see there's a lanyard around my neck, so I had to have a special pass. And I'm wearing that evening. Yes, thank you. The pin, which I still have and wear sometimes, is a Secret Service pin.
Oh wow!
So they gave it to me so that I would be, you know, the commander of the Secret Service gave it to me that night. What was interesting is that during most of the evening, people either confused me for Sharon's husband, Phil, who I look nothing like, her ex-husband, or they thought I was her Secret Service guy. And it wasn't until we were sitting down at the dinner with Rahm Emanuel, who was chief of staff at the time, as he said, I know that you're really not Secret Service, but we love you anyway.
We love you anyway. That's great. But you do look like a Secret Service guy. You got to be honest. Well, you're very tall, very handsome there. Okay. But Sharon Stone. Okay. That's fantastic. Now, here's Tim Hanks, who is he's the
Jim
identical.
Hanks. That's actually Jim Hanks.
Oh, wait, did I get it wrong?
You did. It's Jim.
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry. There it is,
There you
Jim.
go.
I apologize. Well,
That's
I was
okay.
getting so much ready. But anyway, he's the twin brother of Tom. They look like identical brothers, don't they?
They're very, very, and also their voices are identical. It's very hard to tell in a different room. If you turn your head, you really can't tell.
Well,
And Jim is an accomplished performer in his own right. He's been a extremely successful voiceover actor for many years, doing many parts. And also he's an accomplished writer, which is how I met him and how he came aboard to polish the screenplay for M.I.A.
M.I.A. again, which is the story about your father, who was a fighter pilot and a commander, which is it's a big deal to be a commander and a fighter pilot, huge deal. Unfortunately, shot down in Vietnam, correct?
Yes, he was an air wing commander, and he was also a member of the original Top Gun school.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
so,
have you seen that movie come out? You've seen the new one yet?
I've seen them all, yeah. But he was shot down in Vietnam. It took us 40 years to bring him home, and when we did, it coincided with a monumental new forensic process using mitochondrial DNA. So at the time, we started to hear about procedural shows talking about DNA and forensics and everything. That was because that was becoming really perfected at the time. And so my dad's was one of the first cases that did that. So that's kind of what our feature film about. But our film is not a war story. Our film is really a woman's empowerment story, because it's really about his wife, my mother, who was, frankly, a badass, who just was an exceptional and great, amazing woman. Anyway,
we're going to get to a picture of your dad and mom look like models, just like you. Actually, you were a model for a while. I know that you did some.
Hair today, gone tomorrow.
You still look great. Here's Raoul and Steve Tyler. Like, a lot of people may not know him, but they know I think his sister, Liv Tyler, who was in Lord of the Rings. I think she's more famous.
His daughter is Liv.
A daughter. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Steven Tyler is the lead singer of the band Aerosmith.
Of course.
This is on the set of the movie Goodnight Joseph Parker, which was written by David Brooks, and I served on all the departments of that.
Wow.
It was produced by Eric Edborg, who later became Eric Bell, and who is the son of my husband. And but nobody knew that we were family related on the film, because when I went onto the film, I said to everybody, don't tell anybody, because they'll hate me. They won't trust me and they'll think I'm a spy. So I worked all the departments of the film. It was a great film. Had Paul Sorvino, Debbie Mazar, Kim Dickens, Nick Chinzel. And it was a really great independent film. Yeah.
You've done so many interesting things. I love this picture right here. This is
right here, the guy who has his eyes half closed, who looks drunk. Yeah, that's David Resnick, and he's got his arm around his lifelong buddy, Steve McQueen.
Yes, it looks like he's taking a selfie there, but I don't think so.
He's actually just going, yeah, take the picture. They're all partying. They're at some cowboy themed Hollywood party, heaven only knows when or where. And David and Steve were lifelong friends. The guy in the middle with the cravat hanging down next to David, that's Sal Mineo.
You're kidding. Wow.
And the guy on the far end, I can't remember right now, the cigarette, and he's wearing the Western jacket, was a famous producer. I can't remember his name right now.
Well, it's David something, right? Yeah.
Well, David is actually over here. So it's.
Oh, I see. Okay.
One person missing from the thing, but that's okay. Yeah. So anyway.
All right. Well, that's interesting. But you knew Steve and McQueen.
I did not.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Here you
Oh, yeah,
worked.
we are at Disney. The lady standing right behind me, nearest, yep, that's Sid Stewart, who is, these are some of our mentees who are this is our Better Youth Incorporated Day at Disney, in which some of our youth were being hired and were working with Disney. And we had gone, I was wearing my Imagineering shirt from the days that I worked at Disney Imagineering with Connie Stamos and the now departed Nick Stamos, who was our dear friend and very famous and well-known line producer in the business.
Well, let me get this straight. This is via, if I got it correct, your nonprofit, and you're actually getting these people jobs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Better Youth. We are partnered with Skydance, Warner Brothers, PBS, the LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District, BEN. We're partnered with all kinds of people, Channel 4, everybody. And what we do is we help youth, and primarily youth who would not normally have advantages. We also help them if there's a safety issue, if there is a problem where they need help with safe governance, safe housing, someone to speak to help them in a situation or a crisis situation. But primarily what we do is we get them mentored into, like, the LA Film School helps with us also, and we get them into paid positions in the entertainment industry. And
that's phenomenal. I want to talk to you about that sometime.
Yeah, 3 of these people that you see in there are Better Youth people who were hired at Disney.
That's great. That's great work. Now I know you. Now I know you live in Hollywood, correct? Is that where you live?
I do.
Now, one of the exciting things about this photo is that everybody's got a sports car, but you have a covered wagon. What was it like, driving around in a covered wagon? That's pretty cool.
Well, the covered wagons were awfully fun on Sunset Boulevard at night. It's certainly a showstopper. It's also the thing that will get you, killed because it's so slow. Actually, just kidding. It's a prop. This is actually an estate out in, wow, I think it's out near Malibu. And this picture was taken by my manager and co-producing partner and friend, Brandon Cohen. And we were at this great event, and I wanted to get a picture with the car.
That's a nice car, very nice car. So you've done some interesting things. This is you at Bandersnatch.
This is actually at the British Embassy here in LA, and they were doing a BAFTA celebration for Bandersnatch. I'm actually wearing on my lapel the royal signal ensign of the Swedish royal family.
Oh, wow.
Because I had just been in touch with them for something. But yeah, that was quite an interesting day at the embassy, which is a lovely place to go.
Well, I'm sure you have so many stories that so many people would love to hear the stories about all the different things that you've done. It's really quite amazing. Here you're
Father James, right?
Yes.
I'm in costume.
Yep.
So this is the hip hop movie Eyes Don't Lie.
Eyes Don't Lie.
Eyes Don't Lie, which was shot in St. Louis a few years ago. It's a really interesting story. Father James is a very nefarious character. He's a really great part to play. And this film is now being made, shot for shot, reshot, is going to be filmed again in St. Louis again this summer. And I've been asked to reprise my role as Father James.
Well, why are they reshooting it, just out of curiosity?
A major studio has picked it up, and I believe Leah Daniels Butler is now doing the casting on it. I think that it's going to have quite a different talent pool. It's going to have an augmented, increased budget. It's going to go into a major distribution plan afterwards, which the previous film did not, although it should have. It was great. But this one is really going to just, elevate. And they've asked me to reprise my role. So I'm really happy to be in that room with them.
That's so great. So when is this movie coming out?
I don't know, but we're shooting it at the end of July, the first part of August. So
You
then
have,
post-production and probably the fall or the spring of next year.
Raoul, you have more going on than I can imagine. It's amazing, all the
I don't
things.
do boring.
No, I like that. I don't do boring. Now, I want to talk briefly about Zach Gruber because I know you are working together. He's a writer, he's an artist, a director. He's been in television. He's written so many different things, but he's partnered with you in what way? Explain that to us.
Well, Zach and I are old friends and colleagues. Zach worked as one of the head writers for Michael Levitt Productions, which are the Hollywood Squares and
Wow.
Kites and Caviar and a lot of other specials. In fact, Michael has a really great dog show show done on, which is all about rescuing animals. And
We have 3 dogs. I love any show about dogs, to be honest with you.
yeah, and so Zach and I wrote. We co-wrote the World Music Awards in 2007 in Monaco, which is an internationally broadcast show at the time. I don't think they do it anymore. We had Patti LaBelle and all kinds of people on that show. But here we are at the Emmys. This was a couple of years ago. Zach and I wrote the original draft of M.I.A., which at the time was called The Burning Blue. So the script that Jim Hanks has augmented and polished is based on The Burning Blue. So The Burning Blue became M.I.A. And
Wow.
so Zach and I have worked on that. Zach also has 2 master's degrees in fine arts from Boston University. He's taught art. He's been exhibited all over the country. And there's M.I.A. There's my father and my mother. That's our poster that we like.
Now, who's this? Is this the FBI in the background?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
In a not very convincing costume.
No, not at all.
But I love this picture because you remember the series The Americans?
Yes.
Yeah, this very, very much reminds me of that. It's got that Americans feel, only The Americans, which was an astoundingly brilliant series, fantastic.
Who starred in that? I can picture
Carrie
it.
Russell and her husband, whose name is just clicked out of me. Not
Who was it again? I couldn't hear.
Carrie Russell.
That's right. Yes, that was great.
And her husband, they wrote it and directed it, and I can't remember his name right now. But the thing about The Americans was they played, spies, convincing spies. With M.I.A. here, we're seeing real heroes, American heroes who were not spies.
Well, your father was a commander and a jet pilot
Test pilot and yes.
Oh, actually, there's something interesting about him. He was the first person ever to go through an eye of a hurricane. Is that true?
Yes, in a reconnaissance reconnaissance plane, which I forget now exactly which one it was, but it was a turboprop plane, and
turboprop. Wow.
He was testing a new kind of camera, like a camera and a weathering system that was classified. So he had to actually go through the hurricane and then fly through the eye of it to get all the barometric pressure readings and all the visuals.
Wow. Well, they do look like models. What a wonderful picture. Beautiful mother. Let us know when M.I.A. comes out. I definitely would like to see it.
We're going to shoot it in New Jersey.
Where in Jersey?
All over North Jersey, probably.
Sounds great.
My team, Kevin McCafferty and my other team are.
Oh yes, Kevin and I are close.
Yeah, and so we're planning on filming there, and we have quite a lot going on there. There's Patrick TATOPOULOS, my hero.
Well, he's exciting because he's going to be directing not the M.I.A., but he's going to be directing
Next to the Gods.
Next to the Gods.
Yeah, he and I have co-written the pilot for that series based on my books. And this is Patrick. Patrick is is a legend in science fiction and fantasy filmmaking. He has been the production designer on Stargate,
Underworld, I, Robot, Chronicles of Riddick, Independence Day, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Stargate, Spawn, Godzilla, Stuart Little, 300, I Am Legend. Amazing. He's been on such, I just had to read that off.
We're honored to have him aboard, to have a person of that caliber aboard my science fiction piece is just, it's just mind-boggling.
Do you mind if I read his review of the books next to the guy?
Wow. Please do.
So this is what he had to say. A few months ago, this is from Patrick, who is going to be directing the film into the
Sphere World.
Into the Sphere World, which is from the books Next to the Gods. A few months ago, I was asked to join and direct the screen adaptation of Raoul Peter Mongilardi masterpiece, Next to the Gods, 4 books. After reading it, I thought to myself, this must have felt like when I was joining Star Wars. Raoul is onto something very special, a game changer. It's about creating a never seen before worlds, becoming involved in extraordinary lives of characters who are unique as the worlds they are coming from. Raoul's saga takes me miles away from anything I've ever lived or dreamed before. I'm going to bring these characters and the worlds to life, filled with my lifetime passion for science fiction, because he's done a lot of science fiction, as I read before, epic tales of powerful dynasties. This is a dream project for me. That's what Patrick is saying. One that could grow into an exciting franchise. We hope we see it, and attracts the interest of the world's video game streaming programs. He has no doubt, which is very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's astounding. I mean, a lot of people will write you an LOI that will be, very respectful and state something like, all things being equal and given my time, I would be happy to direct it when such and time. And you're lucky to get that. But to have an LOI like that literally brought me to tears in the best way. I mean, it's just, you can't hope for anything better, really. You just can't.
And we're going to get
from a genius like him. And he's also so whip smart and fun, but his sketches and his work himself, his concept sketches, are extraordinarily beautiful. He's just a remarkable person. Remarkable. Yeah.
Well, I also have 2 others I'd like to read. Mark Sikri, am I pronouncing that correct? Sikri. Yeah. He's written and produced hundreds and hundreds of hours of TV programs, things like Star Trek, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Twilight Zone, Babylon 5, Beauty and the Beast, and my favorite, He-Man. Did you ever see He-Man, Mel? I love that show. I was waiting for season 2, but they canceled it. And then the star went on to be something even bigger, something bigger. But I thought He-Man was hilarious.
He-Man got bigger.
He got huge. Who was the star's name?
Of the film?
Yeah,
well,
no.
Dolph Lundgren, who played the role of He-Man in the film, and it was Frank Langella, I think, who played Skeletor.
Okay, that's funny.
And they were lucky to have Frank, because I think he made, even behind the mask, he made the menace of Skeletor actually happen. I think it was Frank Langella.
That's great. So this is what he had to say. Like Frank Herbert's Dune, which, as you know, is huge, and there's actually a series going on right now, or Isaac Asimov's Foundation, which is another series going on, Raoul Mongilardi's Next to the Gods, remember that, is a cosmic spanning epic that marries elements of hard science fiction with alternative history, challenging readers to open their minds and see with their eyes, feel with their hearts, be born afresh to a fresh, profound vision that examines the very nature of humanity, man's relationship to his gods, and startlingly the gods' relationship to other gods, I guess, and much more. Dazzling, passionate. Give yourself over. Make sure you read Next to the Gods. There's 4 books. And finally, Richard Leinheim, vice president of Paramount Pictures, says it's a highly imaginative and colorful characters. So now Raoul, I'd like to kind of, this has just been background, but I want to spend the rest of our time together talking about Next to the Gods.
Yeah.
And I want to start with something pretty interesting. I think it's interesting. If I don't describe it correctly, please help me. But in your book, you talk about a pulsating star, a star that pulsates. I guess they call it the fluctuates. And no star ever has fluctuated like you describe in your book. It's just never existed. Something you dreamed up that you had a reason for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was in 2016, believe it or not, they found the star that does this. And I have a short video, if you don't mind. I'd like to just show it. It's called What the Flux.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's important to understand some of the background that someone who can do something in science fiction, total fiction, and write something that years later becomes fact. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. So let's watch Into the Flux right now. And it's just a 2-minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. So that's pretty exciting. You dream up this, well, first of all, you dream up this whole world, this whole series. We're going to get into it. But you come out with this idea of this fluctuating star. You come out with the idea that there's something in orbit absorbing it, the energy, and it has to give off heat. That's causing it to. And then.
Well, yeah. So Next to the Gods is basically about a civilization within a Dyson sphere. So a Dyson sphere is either a round, solid, or perforated, or a series of rings that you could potentially put around a solar system. The idea would be that you would be holding a tremendous amount, your civilization would then be able to capture unlimited amounts of energy. The way I envision the Dyson sphere in Next to the Gods is that it's perforated, and so that because it has 3 small stars inside it, would become like a radiator in there, it would get very hot. So eventually you would have to burn off some of that heat, right? So you'd have to accrete it. So you would basically open these valves and poof, out would go this excess heat. So it wouldn't be happening all the time. It would only be happening when the interior pressure or radiation would be so hot, right? So you'd have this erratic blinking, fluxing, erratic, but it would be very bright on the spectrum. It would be, 20% or more. And so in the series of Next to the Gods, we as primitive people see this in the Pleiades system, and we're fascinated by it. We light fires to it. We don't understand what it is. We think of them as gods, the way primitive people saw constellations and things. And so eventually in the story, those beneficent aliens, not evil aliens, come to Earth because they're related to us. They are our brothers and sisters in life. So when they discovered Tabby Star, it was behaving exactly the same way, which is why all of a sudden my phone exploded. And everybody's like, have you seen it? Have you seen the article? Have you seen the press release from NASA?
That's fantastic. Amazing.
So the next thing, so I had sort of predicted it, not discovered it, but I had predicted it. Well, it's a very humbling experience. It's like being hit by a lightning bolt from Zeus, because when you write something that is imaginative, creative, as the world-building saga of Next to the Gods is, that's wonderful in itself. When it happens to coincide with a cosmological discovery or a discovery in science, actual science, that's a really wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, I do want to say one thing about the dust theory, okay? So now they're thinking, because Tabby Star could originally have, we thought, might be a Dyson sphere, because it would be blinking so erratically, as I had described it in the Dyson sphere of Next to the Gods. Now they're saying, well, it could be a dust cloud that's orbiting.
Yeah, he said that.
Right? Well, here's the interesting thing about that theory, though, because we don't know that it's a dust cloud. Actually, keep in mind, we don't know. We still
No,
don't know
he
why
doesn't know.
the star, which is in the Cygnus constellation, is behaving the way it does. We do not know. It is a theory as to why it's behaving this way. But here's the interesting thing about the dust theory I'd like for people to think about. When have you ever seen the sun pass through clouds exactly the same way every single time? How does that make sense? Because to me, it doesn't make sense. Even an interstellar cloud would dissipate, would change its form, would not be in the same predictable pattern all the time, right? By its very nature. Now, if it were another planet that would be obscuring, then yes, that would make sense. But if you're talking about a dust cloud, especially with solar wind and solar movement, the space does not just sit there, you know. So to me, the dust theory is very weak. People think that we're just sitting in space. Here's the sun, Earth goes around it, and we're just sitting there. Actually, that's not true at all. The sun is moving through space at thousands and thousands of miles an hour, and our planets are going around it, are being dragged through space with the sun. Nothing is nothing is still, nothing is just sitting here. And that is the truth of cosmological science and astronomy. And so
Wow.
we are moving all the time, and it's quite a bit. And of course, on Earth isn't sitting still either, is it? It's rotating, and it's rotating quite quickly. It's about 1,400 miles an hour.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we are constantly in motion. We're orbiting quickly. We're moving through space quickly. Our entire solar system is moving through space quickly, and our galaxy is moving through space. There is no stillness in space. So the idea of having a dust cloud that's going to be the same thing all the time, moving around this gigantic star and blocking light at 20%, which is unheard of, at the same time, all the time. It may
Yeah,
be
well, he said there's 150,000 stars they've looked at, and
right.
this is the only one doing this. So this is it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. You predicted this, so it's getting a lot of attention to your book series Next to the Gods,
Yeah.
and I want to talk about the series more
Sure.
in detail. So let's talk about there's 4 books. Let's talk about the very first book. And I know you don't want to give a lot away. You told me that, and I respect that. But you can tell us a general idea. So these books are what, 350 pages each, about roughly?
Well, book 1, I think, is 322, 325 pages. Book 2, which is The Fate of Worlds, is about 420 pages. Book 3,
Wow.
Great is Our Number, is about 420 pages. And book 4, the page count is indeterminate as yet, because that's the one that I haven't published yet, because it contains almost all of the story of Into the Sphere Worlds, which is the series that Patrick and I are developing. So I don't want to, um, give too much of that one away. But the other 3 books, absolutely, they're published. It's, they're out there.
It's on Amazon. Go to Amazon, Next to the Gods.
On
You can
Amazon.
buy all 3.
Yes.
Amazon.
Either a Kindle download or you can get print on demand, but they are Amazon books.
And this is the man that predicted the blinking star, which never existed before. So tell us briefly about when gods walk among us, and what's the whole idea? You're setting up the whole series in the first book.
Yes. So in Gods Walk Among Us, we're looking at our actual history on Earth as we know it in the early medieval feudal stages, pretty much the Dark Ages. Things are pretty rough here on Earth. And at the meantime, what we don't know, and we couldn't know, is that the Arcerian civilization, which are our brothers and sisters, who we don't know yet, are living this wonderful life within their Dyson sphere worlds, an incredible life of power, of majesty, of benevolence. They have long, long lives. They've lived for thousands of years, but they make a terrible mistake. And the mistake is that they, in dividing their power, one of the reasons why they built the Dyson sphere, some of them, is that they don't want to be mortal. They want to renounce mortality. They want to go back to the God's realm. So it's very much like Lucifer. I don't want to live outside of heaven. I want to rule, And so some of the Arsarians get greedy and they want to use the Dyson sphere to punch a hole through the fabric of space to go back to the God's realm. Well, this is anathema to most of them and also to the gods. So they're punished, and they're punished severely. And at that same time, some of them are coming to Earth to reach out to us, to coexist with us, to help us, to live with us, not to conquer us, not to hurt us, not to raid our resources, which is always, to me, so silly anyway. Why would you go, waste all the energy to go to another world to raid its resources? Doesn't make sense. If you want to colonize it and you want to go there and establish bases of operation, that makes sense. For example, in our own solar system, we know that we have all the water, helium, gold, all of the precious resources we could ever need are in the worlds and moons in our solar system that could keep us going for centuries and centuries. So when the Arsarians come to Earth, they actually lift us out of the Dark Ages, and they start a very beautiful coexisting life with us. And for us, it's amazing because poverty sort of stops, the brutal warfare ends, hygiene and good food and all these kind of benefits start coming from these very benevolent people. But they have their own baggage too, because what we don't know is like some of the Olympian gods in Rome and other things that inspired me. The Arsarians have their own baggage. They have their own secrets that they want to keep from us, not because they want to hurt us, but because they want to make sure that we don't get fearful. And that sets up the tension of what's going to happen later on.
Okay, so that's the first book. Not giving it away too much, but there's a benevolent association.
Yes.
That runs it, that has everything's great, but they run into a problem. And listen, if you like science fiction, as you know, Raoul, my daughter writes science fiction. She wrote your
daughter's work.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting. And I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it very much.
Oh, you purchased the book? Thank you.
I did. I also love the presentation of her books is absolutely beautiful. The cover art, everything's just extraordinarily. It's really beautiful.
Well, we can introduce you to an artist if you ever want to.
I do. In fact, I do.
We'll talk offline. Thank you. That's she'll be very happy to hear that. So this is book one.
Yeah.
Let's go to book two, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And
so
please, everybody, go to Amazon and buy next to the God. So book two is called The Fate of Worlds. The Fate of Worlds.
The Fate. So in book two, now we have had a long association and the whole generation of the first dynasty. So the Arsarians live in what we call 200-year life cycles. So they have a first dynasty, a second dynasty. When they're in live, they will be called, for example, Arhanus incarnate. When they're gone, it's Arhanus transcended. So they don't believe in death or anything like that. They believe that we go on and on and on. So now we're into the second generation of this this is our hero M.I.A on the cover.
Now explain the eyes. What does it mean with the eyes? They have special or different eyes?
Well, yes, I wanted to make them very human-like, but I also wanted to make them alien in the sense that they do have these very large expressive eyes, but not bug eyes. And I wanted to make them so that they have these beautiful little floating pupillae instead of having a solid iris. So when you look at their eyes, it's like looking at the night sky. So you can tell they're looking at you because the pupils, the flecks, sort of concentrate on you.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I like
certain,
that.
certain of the Arasarians can also inflict mesmer. So they can send a vortices out of their eyes, a mesmer wave that can actually hypnotize you and make you do their bidding. Of course, this is not a good thing. It's a very nefarious thing. It's a forbidden thing by the ruling Talasar dynasty, which are who are living on Earth with us. And who are,
I wish I had that ability, quite frankly.
yes, as a lot of people, I would like to mesmer. Um, especially studio chiefs, to mesmer them into a three-picture film.
Sign in the dotted line right here. Thank you.
Right now. But things start to unravel also in the fate of worlds, because also uneveness. So one of the things that I do with language in Next to the Gods is my characters have subconscious allegorical meaning. So, for example, our hero throughout the series is Moniah. So, my Messiah, Moniah.
Ah, I like that. That's interesting.
Arhanus is the emperor, or he's also known as the Arhan. So, for example, in royal service, you'll say, "Where is herself?" That means, where is the queen? Where is herself? Or where is himself? So it's another way of referring to the royal personages, because only that personage is herself or himself. So you see it as a third person, right? Himself is in the next room. It sounds odd, but it actually makes sense. So with Arhanus, you have our highness, Arhanus.
Ah.
So one of the evil characters is Anivenus. He's a master engineer, and he has now, by book 2, become a semi-immortal entity. And his whole design is to thwart what's going on Earth, undo it, make ruin of it, and so that he can seek revenge on what happened to him, but also succeed in his ultimate plan, which is to renounce mortality for the Arasarians and become fully immortal with the gods on an equal setting with them. And
what is the
prism, the obelisk? So Anivenus, when he was transformed out of the sphere worlds, he was locked into an obelisk that was thrown out of the sphere worlds. He can never return to it.
Oh, so that's the sphere world. Okay, it's all coming together.
The obelisk then settles down onto another planet where there are other humanoid life forms living, like they're called the Solosians, who are like us but more primitive. And he becomes their god. He projects himself to be their god. Of course, he's a liar. It's not true. But he's projecting them so that he can build them into his subjects, make them bend them to his will, make them do what he wants to do, with a long-range plan towards thwarting everything that happens on Earth, mostly to thwart his brother Arhanus, who is the benevolent ruler.
Wow. Okay.
Then
there's a lot going on in book 2.
Halfway through book 2, we skip and we move into the present age, where we come into the lives of the young Emily Milston and her friends, who are going to be interconnected now into the rest of, and they're going to go all the way through book 2 and book 3 and book 4. She's going to marry Moniah and become the first human to successfully produce an alien human child.
Oh, okay, interesting. Wow.
Which the Arasarians have not ever been able to do. They've simply been going on dynasty after dynasty after dynasty. But now that they have reached this on Earth, it's an evolutionary process that is happening with them and with us.
Man, this is detailed. You've thought of a lot of different things. Now, book 3, Great is Our Number. That's an interesting title. Explain that title. What does that mean?
Well, by now, we are further along into the rulership. So Emily has become the empress, the first human empress. Arhanus loves her so much that he has elevated her to become an empress. And she and her husband, Moniah, are like the force of nature. They're like the superstars of all time, right? So everybody loves them, and they are recreating the world government. It's about peace, it's about equality, it's about loving this and nurturing this. And they've been through now some very, very strange happenings. Anivnus came to Earth and fought against M.I.A, and M.I.A defeated him. So now there's a whole new great age of family and friends and new heroes. They've also had their son Stephen Medean is now born. He's married a woman named Jenna, and they have a son named Zakija, who will be our lead character in Into the Spirit Worlds, the series that Patrick is going to direct in book 4, Into the Spirit World. So all that happens in Great Is Our Number is also the energy that the Arisarians have brought into us and through us and all has also resonated through our animals, through our natural environment, through our life. And so Earth is now, and as we know, this planet Earth, not in science fiction, but in reality, is the most extraordinary garden. We're so blessed. We have an amazing, amazing planet here. We have
Yes.
thousands of species, literally tens of thousands of species of plants and animals, and we're learning more about them all the time. And now it has become our principal duty to make sure we don't destroy it, right? So,
Yes.
so we have all of that happening within Next to the Gods as well. But I
Here we are, Next
yeah.
to the Gods. We are on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it on paperback. It's not a lot of money. You should buy all 3 books, the series. I just wanted to point that out, that's available.
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure that we're talking about the 3rd book, but we're going to get into the 4th book now. We've got about 3 minutes, Raoul. So Next to the Gods. Now, I know you don't want to give a lot away about this because you're writing the TV series, which is very exciting. So just tease us with a little bit about book 4, which will not be available, I understand, until the series comes out, correct?
Probably not. Well, essentially now we're several years in our future now, our mythological future, our alternate future, and the grandson of M.I.A and Emily, Zakija, has now grown up, and he's on a vision quest. This is a guy who's grown up amidst all of this around him. What does he want to do now that he's a young man? He wants to go to the spirit worlds. He wants to go journey to the spirit worlds, and he wants to see for himself these amazing worlds. I mean, can you imagine being anybody, and eventually you would want to go there and see for yourself? You know, you're not going to get hurt, presumably. So his Into the Spirit Worlds is about his preparation as a person, or lack thereof sometimes. You know, when we're young, we're arrogant, we think we don't need to be training. Maybe we don't need all that training. Then we find out, well, we probably did. So there's that. And then, of course, the pilot ends with him just about to enter the portal into the spirit worlds. And then the rest of the series will be all about his adventures that happen in the spirit worlds. And the most astounding thing of all is when he realizes that the spirit self is conscious.
That's interesting. My goodness. So it all comes together. Please.
All a big circle, isn't it?
Yeah, it goes. Yeah. So please, if you get the chance, there's the 4 books. Book 4, Into the Spirit Worlds. Book 3, Great Is Our Number. Book 2, The Fate of Worlds. And book 1 in the series Next to the Gods, When Gods Walk Among Us. So very exciting. We've showed a lot of interesting things today. We got about 45 seconds. Raoul, I know I was going to try to get you to do some impersonations, but we just don't have time. We got about 24 seconds. Give us 15 seconds. Just say goodbye. Say something you want to say to the audience, please.
Well, thank you, Gary, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you for everything, and be peaceful, be good to each other, and we'll be good. You know, our world will be good.
We're going to continue our relationship, Raoul. I've got to go now. Thank you very much. And I'll give you a call later.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.